Oftentimes the things that you love doing the most and the things that you're most afraid of end up being the same thing. And this usually isn't because of the thing itself, but because of outside influences like doubts or resistance or fear, whether that be the fear of failure or the fear of being seen or even the fear of success. And when these fears do hit, when resistance strikes, it's so much easier to just pass the blame onto anything or anybody else instead of recognizing that everything stopping us from doing this thing is within ourselves. Hi, if you're new here, my name's Leena, and if you're not new, you may have noticed that the videos that I post on my channel might tend to take kind of different forms week by week, and that is because I'm giving myself the freedom to explore my own creative expression and trying to allow myself to create in a way that is authentic to who I actually am and what I want to be sharing on this platform. There are definitely different types of content that I enjoy making and also consuming, one of which being podcasts or, like the chattier, more podcasty kind of videos on YouTube as well. I definitely have found a lot of value in these kind of videos and definitely do think that I have some perspectives to share as well. But as I said before, there are different dimensions to the kind of videos that I want to be putting out there. So I guess this is the birth of a new mini sub-series on my channel, which I don't really know what to call yet, but for now, we're going to call it Creating Conversations. In general, and as a psychology student as well, I think it's extremely important to normalize having those uncomfy conversations about topics that are not always talked about but are on themes that everyone tends to experience universally. Something that I've actually had a few conversations with multiple people this week about, and what I've noticed coming up in my own, circles of people who I follow online is, just themes of self-doubt and resistance and just these untangible things that are stopping us from becoming our highest, most authentic, most confident selves. Basically just fear in all the different forms it comes in, and this has actually been showing up in my own life a lot these past few weeks in various different aspects of my life, but especially in the creative sense, especially when I think about posting anything on Instagram or sharing myself and thinking about sharing the different types of videos I have planned for YouTube. And this isn't just me. I feel like the fear of being seen and perceived by others affects us so strongly in ways that we don't even realize. And I feel like I have a lot to say on this topic and thought it should be the first theme of this new Creating Conversations mini sub-series on my channel. I'm in such a big rediscovery phase about myself at the moment, and I feel like the more I learn about myself, the more I'm realizing that there exists a slightly different version of who I am for every single person I interact with in my life. And this is totally normal and expected. Like, you're not going to be the same version of yourself with your best friends versus your parents or, your work boss. But the versions of myself I'm describing here are not simply ones that are more respectful or, more casual than others. It's the versions of myself that are feeling fear about sharing who I really am with people and diminishing my own life so that I can be more digestible to others and not being as open or as vulnerable or as authentic in the fear of how others are going to see me or perceive me. And I think that is where the problem kind of lies. We shouldn't have to dim ourselves down and become lesser versions of ourselves to be more liked by other people. If we're having to do this to be accepted or respected by a certain group of people, are these really the type of people that we want to be hanging around? Do we really want to hold ourselves back to fit into certain spaces and maybe minimize some of the judgment that we receive from other people? Or do we want to accept that judgment is going to come from somebody regardless of who we are or what we're doing, and do our best to show up as authentically as we can and eventually attract the people that are going to love us and appreciate us for our authenticity rather than some other persona that we're putting on to be more widely likable or to get more views? This is kind of the basis of the cogs that have been spinning in my brain this past week, and I know the brains of a few other people that I've spoken to as well. For example, the two biggest spaces in my life right now that I feel like self-doubt and just the fear of being perceived and judged and just, putting myself out there to the whole world that are being affected right now is my YouTube channel and how I'm showing up or, not showing up on here, and also my writing. I was one of those kids that kind of grew up on YouTube and had her favorite YouTubers and would rather watch YouTube videos than say like TV or a TV series, just because I felt like I could really connect with the people on there because they were being their authentic selves, and also because I love the process of filming and editing videos. And this is something I've been doing since I had like an iPod Touch in year 7 or whatever. I was editing videos and like little cheer edits and just talking to a camera and pretending to film videos for people people even though they never went anywhere. Similarly with writing, I've been writing more days than not in some form or another for as long as I remember, and I've always been the person to say that one day I will write a book, or multiple books. Recently I've really been tapping into writing more poetry as well. I've got a notes app full of it, my journals from over the years full of it, my brain even more so full of it. But even though 99% of my writing I'd never share, I feel like the background thought of me potentially sharing any of my art, especially with strangers online, is terrifying and almost kind of has the ability to paralyze you from making more art, which really doesn't make any sense at all, but I know it's a common occurrence amongst anyone that kind of creates anything. And I think a lot of it is kind of the conscious or the subconscious fear of being judged or not being good enough or being cringy, or I don't know, just being perceived in a way that doesn't meet the way that you perceive yourself. But if you're someone who has created any form of art ever, whether that be like visual arts like a painting, or done your own writing, or make music or dance or podcast or make YouTube videos as well, any form of art or creation whatsoever, you understand that it wants to come out of you. It almost has to come out of you, and if it doesn't, a part of you feels like it almost dies a little bit. There is this quote by an author called Lloyd Alexander, and he said that the art is more important than the artist. And this really resonated with me, because how many times has a song or a video or a book or a film made you really feel something and made that feeling stick with you in a big enough way for it to change the way that you perceive the world that we live in, or change something inside of you for the better? It's happened to me countless times, and I know that you're lying if you're saying that it hasn't happened to you too. Any form of art begs to be shared, and the fact that we've been creating and sharing our art for centuries is what makes us so special as humans. Songs want to be listened to and danced to, and films want to be watched, and writing wants to be read. Of course, not everything that you create needs to be shared with everybody, but if you're somebody who wants to, or is even thinking about pushing your art further to start to make a career out of it, or I guess just explore the possibilities you create for yourself, then why not share your art? Coming back to YouTube, I know I want to be a certain kind of YouTuber, and I know that some of you guys watching this as well would have had those thoughts as well. So why are we half-assing it and making excuses for ourselves and making ourselves smaller, and not dedicating ourselves to bettering the craft and improving and getting to where we want to be? Yes, it's scary, but you know what's scarier? The thought of looking back 30 years from now and realizing you let go of the possibility of living out your dream life because you were scared of the opinions of the people around you that are completely out of your control. Imagine how much the world would be missing out on if your favourite artist never released your favourite song because they were scared of what their friends were going to think of them. Imagine if your favourite author never wrote your favourite book because somebody told them that their first draft was awful and that it wouldn't go anywhere. Imagine if there was no visual media, there was no poetry, there was no classical music, there were no rappers or DJs or YouTubers or photographers. Because all these artists, and honestly all people in general, no matter who they are, face criticism every single day. We face judgment, and we face the negative opinions of others every single day. And I think the world would be a very different, very boring place if there weren't those few brave people that stood up against that and developed the thick skin they needed to learn to believe in their art and push past the fears that stopped them from sharing it in the first place. No matter what you do in this life, people are going to judge you until you're successful, and when you're successful, they're probably going to judge you even more. You're going to face even more criticism, and that's where the projecting comments start to come in as well. The comments that are like, oh, that's so easy, even I could do that. And the answer to that, and my question to you as well, is going to be, why don't you? And I wish I could say I could give you advice for this in this video, but I can't, because here I am in the exact same position, letting my fears and my doubts stop me from acting on my dreams and being brave and being vulnerable enough to share my art and my authentic self with the world. Letting the fear of the few inevitable failures that will come on the way stop me from pushing past that and getting to the life and the creative expression that I know I'm capable of. So this video is definitely as much for myself as it is for you guys as well. Doubt and resistance and all these fears of judgment and the fears of perception are universal, and they're not just mine, and they're not just limited to creatives as well. Every single person experiences this in some way at some point in their life, but I feel like anybody who dares to be even just a little bit different gets hit so much harder. But if I do have any advice or any passing notes from the progress, I guess, that I've made so far, it would be to find the people that support you unconditionally and hold them close, because these people are rare and special. And if you have friends or people in your life that are trying to do things differently or trying to pursue some creative venture, it is your duty, if you want to be a good friend, to be that person for them as well. because your genuine and authentic support and excitement for somebody can mean the world for them and can be that slight little extra push that they need to find the courage to share themselves with the world. The fear and those negative doubting voices in your head never go anywhere, and I've heard this in podcasts with artists that are extremely successful, but they still have to overcome that hurdle every single time they share something. Yes, it becomes easier, but that's not because the fear goes away. It's because you start to recognize that it's not necessarily something that you have to listen to, and it's not necessarily there for your greatest good. If there is anything in this life that scares you more than anything else, that is the thing that you need to run towards, because that is the thing that's going to give you the most fulfillment in your life. And if all those fears are bubbling around your art or your expression in some way, just know that it being present there doesn't mean that your art doesn't need to be shared or that your voice doesn't need to be heard. It just means that your brain is wired correctly in its primitive little ways, and that it's coming from a place of wanting to keep you safe and sound in your little comfort bubble. But our hearts and our souls don't want to be kept in spaces where they can just be comfortable. They want to expand, and they want to experience, and they want to feel everything there is to feel in this world. You deserve the chance to succeed, and even if things don't turn out exactly the way that you envision them to, at least you know that you tried, and you're not going to have regrets later on in life because you let the thoughts of others dictate your authenticity and the chance to share your gifts with the world. Because everybody is creative in their own ways, and everybody has gifts to share. Anyway, that was my rant, and I guess that's a wrap on the first episode of Creating Conversations. In the past, I have kind of done up a little bit more of a script when I do these longer talking videos, but these are my notes for today's video. So if my thoughts and points seem a bit more all over the place in this video, that is why. It wasn't a very highly articulated speech or video, but I hope you guys found some value in this. And if you've been feeling those paralyzing feelings of the fear of perception or self-doubt, I hope this has given you a little bit of momentum to act on that and maybe some things to ponder about. And if nothing else, just know that you are not crazy and you are not alone, and that these are perfectly normal human fears. But just because they're there, it doesn't mean that we have to listen to them. If you've made it to this point, thank you so much for watching, and please do like and subscribe and support my channel if you'd like to see more. And if you have any thoughts on this sub-series or this chat or just anything in general, or maybe potential further topics to talk about, please do let me know as well. I would love to hear it all. That's all I've got for today, but I will see you guys in another video on Thursday.